Yo, what is up, guys? It is your host Seiji Samurai here, and welcome back to the channel. It's hope you all enjoyed it. Here I am with another part 2. What if Asta had Mihawk sword skills? And I know it's been it's actually only been 3 days, but hey, yeah. As you guys can see, I'm actually still making the commitment to posting a video every day of the week. I'm sorry for the guys who didn't see me post on Friday, as I wasn't able to. If you guys don't know, I got sick and was unfortunately not able to post on Friday. So yeah, luckily I'm now feeling slightly better and still have the energy to record, except you guys are not going to be able to hear me have like a bunch of energy because I'm still like out of it. Because bro, I'm telling you right now, when I was I was like, you know, I was not feeling 100%. That's all I can really say. But now that I at least have enough energy to record the video, why don't we just go on and get started? Because I really don't got much else to tell y'all. So why don't we move on with this? So once again, welcome to part 10 of this What If, and let's get started.
You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow, you can't be a pro. Don't waste your time no more. Who the fuck are you to tell me what to do?
Alright guys, now let's get started with this What If. So we're now going to kick off this What If where we last left off, this being the end of the elf reincarnations, and we're now moving towards, the next arc. However, we're currently right now going to start off in the in-betweens of it. So currently right now, the Magic Knights are trying their very best to try to get everything back to how it was. They're currently rebuilding everything, trying to make sure everything goes back to normal, as they're trying to fix all the damage that was caused during the battle. However, this would end up causing some complications, as due to this, eventually the Black Bulls certain Magic Knights will actually be called by the king, the Wizard King, who still ends up getting to his 13-year-old body and everything, so there's that. But still, either way, he would end up calling him back a few Magic Knights, and this is where we end up getting pretty much some information, as none of this will really change much from canon. Asta would actually still be, noted that he may die in the future, as everyone actually look at Asta in surprise and extreme worried. Asta would actually shrug it off. In fact, he actually smiles at the thought of someone actually thinking that they could kill him, because if someone could actually try to kill him, that means that they might actually be very strong. And that got Asta even more excited and even more ready to train even stronger. Another thing is the fact that Asta will still end up he would actually be told by the Wizard King that he may have to actually go on trial due to the fact that Asta technically has the power of a demon. So, due to this, the kingdom wants someone to blame for what happened, and who better yet to blame than a commoner who uses demonic anti-magic. And of course, hearing this, the others actually say this is unfair and everything, but also calmly shrugs it off, as honestly, they could try all they want, but there's only a few people in this kingdom that could actually take him on. And if they're actually thinking that he's going to be their scapegoat, then they got another thing coming. So, with that being said, after that, Asta and the rest of them were finally released, with Asta calmly walking with Nero. I will say this, Nero has much more respect for Asta than in canon, as Asta has shown to be very mature and way more responsible than he was in canon. So I don't really see her mocking Asta like she does in canon pretty much, or just playing around with him. But she is very comfortable in Asta's presence, as due to how calm he is, it reminds her of the first Wizard King. I guess that's how I'm going to explain it. Yeah, I'm gonna roll with that. So either way, after that, Asta and Nero were calmly walking until this when suddenly they'll then be approached by a guard who ends up telling them that he has to come with them. Of course, seeing this, Nero was of course not exactly okay with this, but Asta sighed knowing that he had actually no other choice. So 1 minute, bing bang boom, Asta is now in trial. I believe it's called the Magic Parliament or something like that. I don't really know. Either way, we will now turn to when Asta arrives at the Magic Courthouse, where pretty much a bunch of nobles are there accusing Asta about the events. And pretty much the judge of the entire area the judge of the nobles were pretty much also going along with the fact that Asta was guilty, with Asta neither agreeing nor denying them claims, as he was calmly being quiet and observing everything with a neutral look. At this, Nero also had the same thing, as the nobles, even though the nobles were insulting her for her horns and everything, as Asta and Nero will just calmly take everything, but completely ignore it. I mean, heck, what are they gonna do? You can shun us all you want. It's not like it's gonna matter. At this, though, the judge would then walk over to Asta. He would then calmly stand right beside Asta, as he tells him that all this could end if he just admits to the crime. At this, Asta says nothing more until suddenly he will then begin to speak in his ear, saying, "Either you step away from me, or your head is going to be sent flying." At this, the man actually, backs away, not at all threatened by Asta's tone, as he calmly stares down at Asta, but also giving back the same stare. As both of them would continue staring down at each other, he will then walk away, as he then says he will make Asta talk one way or another. As this one suddenly they'll then bring in Marie, as they also accuse her of being pretty much someone who was working for the enemies. And of course, seeing this actually got a twitch out of Asta, as this is when Marie was of course panicking and screaming, asking for help. As this is when the man would then turn to her, telling her that she was guilty. As many of the older nobles would then agree, this is when suddenly, just like that, the knights that were surrounding her would then turn their magic towards her, planning on firing magic spells at her for her execution. At this, Asta says nothing more, as this is when each one of them then are about to launch a spell directly at Marie, just as she calls out Asta's name for a final time. And just like that, things turn from 0 to 100 real quick. As just like that, a powerful wave of energy then shoots out of Asta, knocking the mages that were about to cast the spell on Marie to the ground, as they all fell unconscious, fizzing at the mouth, as many of the nobles that were in the area also passed out unconscious, with only a few of them staying awake, but barely able to. At this, Asta had released the power of his conqueror's spirit. However, he did not release the full blunt of it because he didn't want to actually injure anyone. He released about I would say a good 25% of it. Okay, 50% of it. As Asta wouldn't turn towards him, the man would actually look at Asta in surprise. At this, Asta would then calmly walk over to Marie as he literally jumps out of the podium and everything, as he, using pure muscle alone, would snap out of the cuffs as he walks over to her. After arriving right in front of her, Asta would actually bend down and ask her if she wanted to go home, to which Marie, looking at Asta with a teary-eyed gaze, would then nod her head, as Asta would pat her on the head with a smile, telling her that he will take her there. After that, Marie would nod, now feeling safe and happy. Asta would then turn to the nobles, as he would then give them a death glare. At this, now he was now releasing and actually putting up the temperatures of his conqueror's haki, causing many of the nobles to actually back away in fear, as each one of the nobles that were there that were still conscious would actually bow into him. Even the judge, who was honestly surprised at all this and was actually about to call Asta out for his demonly acts, was now kneeling towards Asta. At this, Asta would then begin to actually insult the nobles, calling them out on a bunch of their bullshit and hypocrites of pretty much acting all high and mighty and all that stuff, as each one of them would not be able to do anything, as they were actually shaken in fear of their lives. As this is when Asta would then pull out his katana, he would then cut off the back of the trial room, creating a ginormous hole and path for them to escape. At this, he will then turn to Nero as he points his katana towards her, swiping down, cutting the cuffs for her as she looks at him in surprise. As he tells her to come along with him, Nero does nothing more but nod her head, as she would go along with Asta. At this, just as they were now making their way, with Asta now carrying Marie on his back, as she actually, due to how scared she was, and due to now that she was safe, she sort of got really tired, so she began to fall asleep. So Asta was now carrying her on her back. But this is when the judge would then stand up once more, as he was not going to let Asta get away, especially with his criminally acts that he so-called blames Asta for. As he didn't activate his magic, this would actually cause Asta to feel some of his strength leave his body. As he ends up telling Asta about his magic and how he's pretty much flaunting all about it, Asta says nothing more, as he then tells Nero to hold on to Marie for him. At this, Nero nods her head, as this is when Asta would then pull out his katana once again and vanish right before his eyes. At this, before the judge even knew it, he had a cut on his cheek. Blood was running down from it, as he also had a katana directly towards his neck, as he was stared down at the eyes of Asta, who was currently glaring at him with a death glare. Now, this is when Asta would then whisper into the man's ear of something that only Asta and the man were able to hear about. No one else could hear, but everyone can only tell that whatever Asta had said to the man shook him to his core. as everyone could see that the man's face would gone paler and paler by the second, as by the time Asta was done, he would give the man a very gruesome smile, one full of malicious intent, as the man could do nothing more but back away from Asta, muttering the words monster, as Asta would then calmly put the katana back into its sheath as he would walk away with Nero, leaving the trial room completely dumbfounded, as well as leaving it with about 50% of the nobles there being knocked out. So after this, certain the event of canon would then come through here, as Fuegoleon and Nozel would still arrive there, except they were a little bit too late since Asta still knocked out pretty much everyone, and pretty much injured literally one of the higher members of society there. So at this, Fuegoleon would actually arrive there as he ends up telling them that they got a message from the Wizard King and all this stuff, and the man would just nod his head, but honestly at this point, he was not going to accuse Asta of anything, as whatever Asta had told him had shooken him to his core, and that he was actually afraid of this child, as all he could do whenever he thought about Asta was think of a monster that child really was. So due to this, Asta would still end up getting the mission from the Wizard King to go ahead and so-called prove his innocence, even though it's not like the nobles could really do anything about it. And due to this is where they were now making their way towards the Heart Kingdom. Now, sooner or later, as soon as they arrived there, this is when they would then run into the Lightning Mage, which I'm not going to say his name because I know that's just going to make me stop for much longer periods of time. And I'm trying to get through the story, okay? I'm not trying to buff it out, okay? So either way, they end up arriving there, and eventually they end up meeting the Lightning Mage, who ends up fighting them. Now, at this point, Asta would actually go up against him at first, as he would, of course, actually be excited at the prospect of fighting someone who he could already tell this man was extremely strong. Especially since he could also see the scar on his face, which means this man has definitely been through his own fair share of battles. And honestly, it starts off with Asta and the man being quite equal at first. However, Asta would sooner or later begin to overpower the man, as after a couple of slashes from his katana, the man was actually getting beaten by Asta, which surprised him. At this, he also told Asta that he was actually not surprised with someone who was a tier 0, which Asta was of course confused by this. But before he even got the chance though, this is when Funeral then tells Asta that they didn't have enough time, and that Asta should be the one going on ahead while they deal with him. At this, Asta was of course quite upset about this, but he knew that they were right. So he ends up of course entering the anti-magic mode, as he ends up flying out into the kingdom. Now when he does, he ends up eventually meeting up with the water spirit, who ends up pretty much, at first, she tries to actually intimidate Asta, and sooner or later tries to use her surroundings against Asta, which was completely made out of water. But the sad thing was, Asta was definitely way above her level here, as, again, like I said, already at this point in time, Asta was way stronger than he was in canon. And so it wasn't that surprising when Asta was able to easily get past her, and was finally able to arrive at the area where he saw a woman who was completely undressed. So, awkward. Moving on, we now move forward to when the Black Bulls are finally arranged and everything, as after that, we end up meeting the Queen, which I'm not going to say her name either. I'm telling you right now, guys, I'm gonna screw up their names really bad. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe when I'm done recording this part to the What If, I'll start trying to practice how to say their names, because not going to lie to you, I really want to make it to where the story seems like you guys are like fully going along with it. But until then, I'm not gonna start trying to like say their names, because I know I'm gonna be doing nothing more but saying it wrong and then stay on it until I say the name right. And I'm not trying to go through that. So either way, after that, the Black Bulls, after getting arranged and everything, they end up talking to the woman, who ends up telling her about the other demons that are around the area. The one that cursed her, to which Noelle ends up finding out that's the same one that actually ended up killing her mother. And also, this is where we end up finding out about the events of the Dark Triad. And so, due to this, they end up contacting the Wizard King and pretty much asking him, like, what should they do after this? To which the Wizard King went up saying that the Clover Kingdom would actually assist in helping them. And so, due to this, the Queen of the Heart Kingdom would then tell them that they have 6 months to train and get stronger. At this, she turns to Asta. She tells him that Asta, out of everyone currently right now, has so far the best chance at facing off against them, considering the fact that at this point in time, Asta's level was about as powerful, if not, actually no, he was like a few more powerful than her strongest mage, that being the Lightning Mage. Again, I'm not going to say his name. And so due to this, if anyone had a chance of defeating them currently, it was Asta. But it was better to be safe than sorry, to which Asta would understand this. And besides, it would actually be a pretty good time for him to train and get stronger even further. So with that being said, the 6 months training would then begin, as this is where the Heart Kingdom Joint Struggle arc would then begin here. As this is where I'm going to go through with it by having a time skip. So pretty much after a 6-month time skip, we will now turn to the present, where we see a part of the Spade Kingdom's army as they were currently now trying to raid an area, a village, as they were using the villagers to try powering up their machine to raid other villages. This is when suddenly, as the boss of, I cannot talk. Anyway, the leader of this part of the army would then suddenly be attacked and sent flying and crashing through his own machine, surprising the other members as they were trying to figure out what the heck was happening. As this when suddenly bursting from the roof of the machine, we would then see Asta, who was calmly there, but the thing was, he looked completely different. Asta this time had actually gotten taller too. He actually did get taller in this timeline. And he also had he looked much more like Mihawk in this timeline, I would say. Like, I'm just gonna say he looks more like Mihawk in this timeline, mostly because I want him to, and because it's my what if, so And another thing was the fact that this time, Asta, since he didn't have like the other weapons, Asta didn't fly like on the sword like he does so in canon. So I will say this, Asta is actually just able to make anti-magic wings, since at this point in time he has full mastery over his anti-magic. So it wasn't that surprising, as Asta was now able to make anti-magic wings, and due to this he was able to fly around and zip around much faster. So of course, after sending the leader of the machine crashing down, the other one of his subordinates would then turn to Asta with an angry glare, saying that they were going to take him out, even though they just saw him take out their leader. So As we would then see Libe, who's on his shoulder right now, as yes, Libe and Asta were now strong enough to the point where Libe was actually able to have a physical appearance now. As due to this, Libe, who was now on Asta's shoulder, was now laughing at this, as Asta would sigh, saying that this was so troublesome, and honestly, these guys were nothing. As he would calmly point his katana directly towards the attacks, as this is when, just like that, Asta's katana would absorb each one of their attacks quite swiftly, as this is when suddenly he would then shoot the attacks right back at them, except this time having double the force. Due to this, each one of them would look on in shock, as Asta would hit them with their very own attack, and due to this, they were easily knocked out unconscious and easily defeated by Asta. This is when, of course, Noel and the rest of the backup would then arrive, as Asta would tell them to take care of things here while he takes care of the other factions that were nearby. As he would once again sprout out anti-magic wings, he would then burst out flying through the ceiling, while Noel and Mimosa would go ahead and just sigh, but they decide to do nothing more about it. So, besides that, Mimosa would still end up healing the villagers that were there, while Asta would go on to take care of a few other of the factions here. Now, due to this, they would actually still know about the whole entire Dark Triad thing, as I didn't think I made that clear earlier, so I just want to let you guys know. And other than that, not much really changes from the canon here, because Asta will still go around saving people and all that stuff, so we can go ahead and skip pretty much most of this part. As this is when we're now moving towards Yuno's part of the arc, where pretty much Yuno, he had just returned from he had just heard that he was actually royalty, of course, which honestly, that should not have been that surprising. I'm still surprised that Larry, they were like, oh my god, Yuno was royalty? Like, bro, no man, I mean, did they not see how this man just pulled up out of nowhere with the drippiest fit on, as though this man was rocking bling at such a young age? It was obvious that this man was royalty. Like, come on now. It was not that surprising. But either way, after finding this out, as he was actually stopping by a Hodge village, would then return back to the Golden Dawn, and this is where we still end up getting the Golden Dawn being attacked by the mages from the Spade Kingdom. As one of the members that were there was still hanging around, being much stronger than he was in canon, was able to defeat him lightly. Like, literally, this man was nothing compared to as he was able to defeat him quite easily. And due to this, was able to meet up with Klaus and I don't know the girl's name. Yeah, there's so many characters' names I do not remember. Holy crap. I don't know. Either way, I'm just gonna say this: Klaus and Yuno end up meeting up, as well as one other member of the Golden Dawn. As after that, they decide that they need to go ahead and find their captain. Only that they end up finding him being completely bodied by one of the members of the Dark Triad, Xenon. Now, of course, seeing Xenon right there, Yuno was of course surprised at this, as he ends up rushing towards him, only for Xenon to completely disappear right in front of Yuno's eyes, surprising him. As this was something he would then see both Klaus and the other member of the Golden Dawn then be stabbed by a bunch of bones, as this would cause Yuno to be enraged and actually end up activating his magic to its full potential. Like I said, Yuno is a lot stronger than he was in canon. So with that being said, it wasn't that surprising when the very first fight between these two, Yuno was putting in that work. As due to this, the fight would start off pretty much similar to how it was, Yuno using different techniques as well as creating a ginormous wind sword, as he would send multiple slashes directly towards Xenon, who would end up countering with the bone sword that he had created. And due to this, both of them would be clashing with each other, going full power, going blow for blow, as Yuno was giving it all he got. At this, as soon as Yuno realized that the first form was not working out, he would then go to his second form, which I'm not going to go ahead and describe it because, spoilers. Since most people don't read the manga, which, by the way, I recommend you do. Black Clover manga is fire, and you won't regret it. But back to it, though. The fight would still continue on. Yuno would do way better than he did in canon, but the ending results would not change here, as Yuno would still end up getting bodied by this man and nearly get killed. As just like in canon, when everyone thought it was the end for him, this is when luckily William had actually planted a little bit of his magic to make it to where everyone that was injured was still able to recover, as they were actually able to heal from their injuries. However, there was only those that were still alive. For those that had died, unfortunately, if they had died, they were not going to be able to be healed up enough to the point to where they're going to be able to survive. So unfortunately, they still end up passing away. That's unfortunate. And due to this, Yuno makes a resolve to get even stronger, as he ends up screaming out into the sun. Now, this is where I'm going to have to end this part to this what if. I thank you all so much for tuning in here. Pretty much, I'm just going to thank you all. I wish I could record for much longer, but, I'm running out of energy here. Like I said, I got sick, and even though I feel way better now, I'm still not exactly at 100%, so sorry about that. But do not worry. Also, just to let you guys know that the next part to this what if will be its last part, as this what if has gone on long enough, and it's time for it to come to an end, unfortunately. So I hope you all tune in for that last part. Thank you all so much for being here and supporting the channel. And I'm gonna go on and just hit the hay right now. I'm gonna relax, lay down, probably watch some Full Metal Alchemist. And yeah, that's it. Hope y'all do enjoy. And either way, it's your host, Seiji Samurai, and hope y'all have a lovely day. Peace.